You're listening to Real Folk with me, Jo Burke.
So hello everyone, and today my guest is the wonderful, the handsome, the multi-talented Manolis. Welcome. So I obviously have known you for quite a few years now.
Yeah, let's not disclose that. Let's exactly half of my life now. You've known me for exactly half of my life. Yeah.
Perhaps we can start with sort of acting and theatre work and writing, that kind of side of things.
Yeah. Well, acting is something I always want to do. I'm one of these kids that whenever I was asked, what do you want to do when you grow up? Acting was my answer, like, since I was 3, really. I've never changed my mind. That was the ultimate goal. I did go to university. My parents were very supportive of becoming an actor, but their advice was make sure you have a degree on the side because it's going to help you, because obviously acting is not the most secure profession.
No.
As we discovered.
So what did your degree, what was that in?
It was drama and philosophy. I did that in Athens. I was born in Athens. I know there's no hint of any foreign accent.
Hardly any accent at all, Manolis.
But yeah, so I did my BA there, and I actually did a second degree, a journalism degree. I'm not sure why. I think at that point I was thinking, actually, with my degree now, I can teach drama, but it's not something I really want to do. I would prefer to write or, work in a magazine. So let's do a journalism degree as well. So I did that. And when I finished, the time had come for me to basically concentrate on what I actually wanted to do, which was acting. Therefore, I decided to take my chances and audition here in London. I did. And I managed to get into several drama schools, and I chose the one that you chose. So that's
I didn't get into several, it was my only choice.
that's when we met.
It was, so that's in a nutshell. And you have taught drama as well, so that did come in handy.
Yes, so I haven't taught drama as in academically. I've worked at youth theatre places. So it's a combination of practical and theoretical. So I've never actually used my degree as in, teach drama, curriculum drama, or anything like that. But it did help me to get part-time jobs as a freelancer always at youth theatres. And also work with a charity called Tender, which basically promotes healthy relationships to schools and youth offenders institutes via drama.
Fabulous. What a good thing to do. It's amazing. And what year was it we finished drama school? Was it 2001?
I thought we were not going to discuss
I know, I have.
Okay,
so I have.
So basically now you know my date, my age, if you can. Okay, yes,
Sorry.
We graduated in 2001. I moved on and I did a degree in directing as well. A master's in directing. That was a 1-year course, and I started working straight after that.
Yeah. And what would you say? You know what it's like as actors. Everyone always says, if you say, "Oh, I'm an actor," they'll go, "What are you in? What have you been in?" Yeah. So now, over the span of the odd years we've been doing acting.
Okay, come on, 18. All right. 18,
all right, okay, I've said it. How can that be? Can't be true. Out of the 18 years, what's been well, I know what your highlight is, but you say it, go on, you say it. He hardly talks about it at all.
Well, definitely things have been going onwards and upwards in the last few years. Last year, I was in a big film called Greed, directed by the one and only Michael Winterbottom. A fantastic human being and a great person to work with. And I got to film in Mykonos for 2 months alongside many people that I've been watching for years, A-listers, including Steve Coogan, David Mitchell, Isla Fisher, Asa Butterfield, Stephen Fry, and many other names. And that was definitely my career highlight until now.
Yeah, it's an amazing film. If you haven't seen it, it's also an important film, isn't it? Because
yes, Michael's films always have have a purpose, I suppose, in the sense that apart from entertaining, he has a message that he wants to get out there. And this film deals with the fashion industry and how the real cost of us buying a £10 or £5 H&M t-shirt.
Yeah, so it's the whole fast fashion.
Exactly. Fast
sort
and
of,
cheap, yeah.
It's based loosely on Philip Green, isn't it?
It is, yeah. And to start with, we weren't actually allowed to talk about Philip Green, but since the film was released, Michael said, but he was the first one to basically say that it's based on him. Yes, I think most people know Philip Green. He owns a lot of fashion shops, and he's a multi-millionaire, maybe billionaire, don't quote me on that, but his credentials are quite clouded by how he managed to earn his wealth, and at the same time how he treats his employees and the people he's in business with. Yeah,
it's a really powerful story, and it's available on
Amazon, iTunes, Chile, everywhere really. Not Netflix yet, but apart from Netflix, I think you can find it anywhere.
Yeah, unfortunately, its release in the UK sort of coincided with with us having a virus.
Oh yeah, the timing was actually really bad. We had a fantastic few months promoting the film pre-release. It was selected as one of the screenings at the Toronto Film Festival, so we had the world premiere there, which was an amazing experience. I watched tons of films before they were released anywhere. All big Hollywood stars were there. The events I went to, the films I watched, it was an amazing experience, followed by the London premiere, the European premiere at the London Film Festival in Leicester Square, which was equally glamorous and interesting.
The other thing that did really well that you were in was the Durrells, wasn't it?
Yes, so I mean, I've been quite lucky with like my big budget things I've done, because the Durrells, which we filmed 3.5 years ago now, I went to Corfu to film it, so Corfu followed by Mykonos. I've been quite lucky with locations.
Yeah, and that was such a feel-good. I love the Durrells. Yeah, it was a real feel-good Sunday night. It did really
well, and I think there's quite a lot of talk of reunions now and potentially following up the story. That was a great experience. Obviously, with Greed, I was there for 2 months. It was more intense. My part is quite big there in Greed. The Durrells, it was a guest spot for 2 episodes, but I was still in Corfu for a couple of weeks and got to meet everyone there. Again, very lucky, lovely crew, lovely cast.
Horse.
She's an amazing woman.
I love her.
She's great, both as an actress and as a person.
And the other thing, people, dear listener, you may not know about Manolis is, if you go on a flight from London, I'll just tell you, if you go on a flight, that was my phone, I'm so professional, did you hear it bing? And I actually even
it wasn't
put
mine.
it on.
I've put mine on airplane mode.
I even did put mine on flight mode, but that says call mum. There you go. I won't do it right now. So just as I was saying, the thing you may recognise Manolis from is if you have taken a flight from London to Greece. What do you do, Manolis?
Well, okay, so let's give some background to that. One of the things that really worked out for me very early on was voiceover work. I've been the Greek voice of EasyJet since 2007. So if you have flown on EasyJet since 2007, you would have heard my voice to tell you to buckle your seatbelt, to make sure that all your personal belongings are safely stored, etc.
All the exciting things that you do on a plane.
I will tell you something, now that you're talking about voiceovers. You said that my career highlight was Greed. Well, there's a demographic that would disagree, and that's teenagers that are obsessed with video games. Because I do get a lot of messages on my social media, basically being very excited because they've heard my voice whilst playing a video game. The last 2 that I've recorded in the last 3 years were the latest Assassin's Creed video games, which those that...
So what parts do you play in those?
In the first one, I played Diocles, who is a soldier, and the second one, I played 6 or 7 different characters, including Egyptian soldiers, spies, I die in several different ways. I mean, this at some point you should actually have a podcast talking to people that actually do video games. I mean, I had sessions that for 3 hours I was dying in different ways. You know,
I
and
love
I had
that.
the director outside the booth basically saying, "Okay, now you are hit by a big stone on the head. Now the big stone goes straight on your body." You know, and it's different sounds.
It is different sounds. Yeah. Well, I did record Doctor Who recently, so
I know.
So yes, I played not
That's
one
very
but two
exciting,
parts
yeah.
in Doctor Who, dear listener. So yeah, no, I love voiceovers and I love the immediacy of it and the. I think the thing that surprised me about I don't know where you recorded. Where do you record?
Assassin's Creed. It was a studio just off Oxford Street. It's called Side.
I think because I'd never done anything like I've done voiceovers before, but they've been things like this where you go into just a single booth and it's for an ad thing or for a dubbing and it's just you and a director. But sorry, because it was Doctor Who, I can remember thinking, oh gosh, there's so many people in this. It must be a big studio and we've all got booths facing each other. I'd made this whole thing up where it was done like an ensemble, but of course it wasn't.
Yeah.
I mean, the studio did have 4 booths and we could all see each other, but 4 of us were playing, well, I was playing 2 characters actually, and the others were actually only playing 1, but we could all see each other and that's because they were the main cast. But it was just not what I was expecting at all, and I love there was all graffiti in the boxes there as well from previous Doctor Who's and
it's
previous.
where they always record.
Yeah, I wish I'd taken a picture of it actually.
No, some of the jobs are really, really good fun, especially the ones that involve acting, like video games or radio,
like
drama and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Others are very dull. I mean, I've spent 2 to 3 days recording GPS voices, going like names of streets one by one, numbers 1 to 1,000 or something, or yoga videos. You know that you basically have to be very calm, breathe in, breathe out, and you have to match because you're dubbing usually when you do stuff like that. You have to match the woman's voice, whether she's German or whatever, and make sure that the timing is right. So I've had some really interesting ones. I've also done animation and. The budget, it was a new kids animation series and they didn't have a very big budget, so they cast I think 4 of us playing like 6 or 7 characters each. But the funny thing is that in some of my scenes, lots of the characters I was voicing were there. So, you know, I would basically have the script in front of me and I would realise that I'm basically...
You're playing against yourself.
Exactly. I have to change my voice line by line.
Yeah.
And that was fun.
It's challenging, isn't it? It's hard. I had to do that in the Doctor Who thing because my character in 2 scenes was talking to herself and... he said, "How do you want to do it? Do you want to do
all the lines from
and then all
what
the
did you do?
I swapped in between. I just did it. I felt it was easier to reply to myself.
I didn't do it that way. I chose to go all
stay
one
in character and one
because
energy,
one was a bird, one was like I don't know, a pig or something. So it was really it's most of my natural voice. So changing would have actually taken its toll, and I want to be consistent as well. And it was easier to be consistent by doing that. But yeah, I mean, voiceover-wise, I've done everything. As I said, audiobooks, e-learning. Again, that's quite funny. Sometimes I'm hired to do Greek for people that want to learn Greek, you know, and it's like first-year students. So I have to say, I want food. And I have to.
That's what he normally says when he arrives anywhere.
Exactly. Well, not at yours.
No.
Well, at least not 5 years ago when you were single. Now, yes.
What he's pertaining to there is the fact that I am actually not known for my cooking skills, but my husband that I have now
is an amazing cook. You're all invited to her for dinner after this podcast.
That's
so yeah, no, voiceovers have always been great fun, and I'm grateful that I broke into that world. You know, I do some in Greek, some in English, some in Italian. Not many in Italian, but I've done quite a few in Italian. Some in English with Italian accent, some in English with Greek accent.
Wow.
You know.
Yeah. It's the thing is, I think a lot of when you are an aspiring actor, or even sort of later on in life, if you sort of get on the acting bandwagon, I think it's one of those things that's really overlooked is the amount of jobs that are available for voiceover and how it can be a real bread and butter thing while you're waiting for the next Greed or the next film or the next Burrells or whatever, because you have to tread water.
Exactly. And voiceovers were, as I said, a blessing because you know, they don't require a big time commitment, which you need when you're an actor. You need to be available to go to auditions, to learn scripts and stuff like that. And at the same time, when you do get them, the pay is fairly decent, so it relaxes you a bit.
I think that's it. I played your wife in almost everything in drama school.
Yes, I think that's how our friendship started. I mean, there was quite a few of us at our year at drama school, and obviously you needed to work with someone in order to get to know them most of the times.
Yeah.
So we were given the opportunity quite a few times. We have played husband and wife about a divorce. We've played husband and wife and I've died. We played husband and wife that I'm in therapy. We've played
dysfunctional husband and wife. Basically, that's us. If anyone's out there casting a dysfunctional husband and wife,
perfect.
We are it. So
but they have to be good looking, because otherwise it won't be convincing casting us.
Because obviously Manolis. If you look at Manolis, what's your Instagram account, Manolis?
It's Manolis Emmanouel official.
Official. That's since Greed, isn't it? So did you go official since the film?
I didn't have an Instagram before Greed. So, and the actors I work with in Greed told me that it's crazy not to have Instagram account. So yes, that's.
I like the official on the end of it as well. Was there actually already another?
No, there wasn't. But since then, I have reported about 20 people that have impersonated me.
Actually, that reminds me, and this is interesting. You had an impersonator try to fool one of our mutual friends.
I did. Since then, and I haven't told you that, I've had impersonators try to fool different people. Some of them I know, some of them don't. I don't. But I've had about 20 different people just. So that was the first incident, and that was a year ago, I think now. So this guy had approached her, pretending that it's me, and they were chatting for ages. She was telling him lots of personal stuff, including her address, because apparently he told her that he's in LA for the Great premiere in a couple of months, so he would have to go for a coffee. And all this time she thought she was
going to meet you. That's terrifying, isn't it?
Yeah.
That is scary. So that's happened how many times now?
It's happened quite a few times, and I think actually I have spoken to a couple of people. If you're not super famous, however, you have some sort of profile, so you have quite a few famous followers. You've got a decent amount of followers, and you've been in high profile stuff. You have the perfect target for these people, because clearly you've got an account that people would follow, and potentially would be impressed with some of the names that follow you, or the credits. But at the same time, you're not someone that they would immediately recognize and realize that you're not the real one.
No. Yeah, I suppose that's true.
It's that level.
Yeah. But also it's kind of like, you could sort of made it, haven't you? It's a bit like having a stalker.
I've had a stalker.
You did? You had?
But not because of the film.
Work.
Not because of work, but because of theatre work. I'm sure you know that story.
Do I know that story?
The priest.
You had what, like Fleabag? Did you see the priest in Fleabag?
I did have a priest on Fleabag, and in all honesty, if it was Andrew Scott, I wouldn't call him
a I'd love Andrew Scott to stalk me. If you haven't seen Fleabag, the second series, you really should.
So I did a play years ago at the White Bear Theatre, which is a Fringe theatre in
Kennington.
Yes,
not Kensington.
No, I was going to say Kensington. Yeah. Kennington. And this guy came to watch it, who was a priest. And he was of Greek origin, but living in London for years. So he came to congratulate me afterwards, and he said, look, I am very interested in running some drama classes for some of the kids that attend our services. Would you be interested in running those classes? I said, sure, yeah, it's something we can discuss. So that was straight after the show, so we arranged to meet up a few days later. So we met up, and he offered me a fee that I couldn't believe. I mean, it was really good money per hour. I think it was like £70 an hour, which for me at that point, for 2 hours a week, £140, running drama classes sounds fantastic. So I said yes immediately, and it was like summertime at that point, and the class was going to start in September. A week later, he messaged me, can we meet to talk about the drama classes? I thought that's a bit weird, But nonetheless, I mean, I went. Anyways, it was quite clear that we had nothing to talk about that we hadn't covered the first time. It was just a social talk. Bear in mind, I never really talk about my personal life, though now, obviously.
Until now.
Yeah, exactly. Until now, it's exclusive. So, I think he was trying to find out what my preferences were and stuff like that. Again, I was very coy and I didn't give anything away. I wanted to keep it professional. about a couple of weeks later, it was about midnight. I was still awake, and I got a message thinking of you. Basically, all night this escalated. Nothing dirty, but all very romantic. I wish you were here to watch the moon with me. I'm in bed alone. I wish you were here with me. I wouldn't reply to any of this, but I would basically freaking out.
Yeah. I don't know why I'm going, oh, it's not really cute, is it? It's really creepy.
It's creepy, but at the same time, to be completely honest, I was feeling...
Sorry for him.
Yeah, because obviously, he was taking a massive risk, and he didn't know how I would react. But at the same time, he had chosen a career where he had celibate.
Of course,
And clearly, he had human desires. So the next day, because I hadn't replied, he sent me a massive message apologizing, telling me that he's only human, blah blah. I sent him a message saying that
he's only human.
Yeah.
Oh, Manolis.
Oh God, I didn't mean that way. Oh yeah. Guys, I seriously didn't mean it that way. Oh, you got me. Yeah.
Oh, he's only...
I meant he's only human, so he has human desire.
You can't see Manolis, but I will put a photo up so you can see where he's coming from.
Oh, Joe.
Rick's going to kill himself and he's laughing.
Probably. So, anyways, I said to him that, this is not going to go anywhere further, but I'm not going to do the drama classes. He was gutted. He was trying to change my mind, that he would keep professional from now on, but...
Too late.
In the next few months, I did get the occasional text message thinking of you. I would love to meet you, stuff like that, but I didn't follow through because I thought this is a very dangerous territory.
It really is.
That was a massive age difference, right? I was in my mid-20s and he was probably in his mid-40s. Massive age difference. I mean, a significant age difference.
At that time of your life, it is quite big, isn't it? Because age differences, I don't think matter too much, really. It just depends on the couple, doesn't it? But I think obviously the older you get, the less impact any age difference has.
No, but I think for me the combination that he was a priest and he was quite big in I mean he in the church he was representing, and the fact that he was quite older than me, I felt that I was completely out of my depth and I wouldn't be able to handle the situation. This could end up really bizarrely. I obviously didn't want anything else than teach the drama classes, and he clearly wouldn't have been satisfied with that.
No, fair play.
Yeah.
Fair play. Also, I was going to say that you dealt with dramatically you got not burgled, but you were in when somebody came into your house.
Yes,
that was really seriously, guys. This is proof enough. Make sure when you're indoors that your door is locked, because what happened? I mean, you were just here. Yeah,
I was here, but I supposed to explain that when we say here, we are in a flat on the 24th and 5th floor in a skyscraper.
Yeah.
We've got security cameras and a concierge. In order to get in the building, you need a fob. So we've got 160 flats in the building. And I say all that to show you that I'm not a complete idiot, but I hadn't locked my door. So I had gone to the gym, which is in the building. I had come back, and I was downstairs drinking my protein shake.
That's how you stay so handsome.
And I hadn't locked the door because my partner would return from work any moment now. So what's the point, really? And this flat couldn't be safer, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So suddenly I heard noise from upstairs. The kitchen's downstairs. So I thought, oh, is he back? I started calling his name and he wouldn't reply. So I thought, that's weird. I thought, okay, he's being stupid now. He's just playing games. So I walked upstairs and I went in the bedroom and suddenly I see someone that wasn't Rick. It was a 6'3" guy wearing track bottoms and a vest and standing in my bedroom on the other side of the bed looking at me. As you can understand, I froze. I thought, what is going on? Someone has just broken in. I could clearly see in his pockets that he's got something. And the first thing I thought of is gun.
Yeah.
He's got a gun.
Yeah.
So I froze. I thought, okay, if I turn my back, no matter what I do, I shouldn't turn my back. So I found all the courage I could get and I said, what are you doing here? He said, what are you doing here? I thought, this is my flat. He goes, how do I know that? So at that point I thought, okay, this is very bizarre. So mental illness was the first thing that came in my mind. But obviously, that, again, you need to be very careful how to handle this.
Exactly,
because
yeah.
we were all alone in the flat. The door outside, I mean, I would have never made it for the door. If he wanted to shoot me or stab me, he could easily. By the time I got the door, he would have caught me. And as I said, he was a big bloke. So I said, okay, do me a favor, can you empty your pockets? Because all I was thinking is this a gun? To my complete surprise, he did. He emptied his pockets and put the stuff on the bed. So what I thought might have been a weapon was actually a passport and a bag, a nylon bag full of stuff that I couldn't see what they were. I said, okay, what we're going to do now, we're going to leave the flat because we shouldn't be here. He said, why? I said, I think we should leave. So I started walking backwards and he was following me. So I was always looking at him. So we reached a point where the door was, and that was the most scary bit because obviously between that we had a fair amount of distance, a 2-meter distance, the safe distance that you should keep now, wearing masks.
And also between burglars or potential killers.
But at that point, I had to open the door and he went really close to me. He came out and he was just standing still. I mean, it was just like a robot that I was doing exactly what I was telling him. I closed the door and I locked it. I couldn't believe my luck how, but obviously I was very shaken. So I went straight to the bedroom and I saw what was in the nylon bag. And it was basically nuts, like peanuts and cashew nuts and some other things that I couldn't completely recognize. Immediately I called the concierge. Apparently the concierge had been notified that some other doors were tried, yeah. So clearly I wasn't the only flat he tried to get into. The concierge called the police came. Anyways, it turns out that the guy was on something called, what's it called? I've forgotten now. It's a drug, but basically makes them completely lose any sense of reality and decision making. And they just follow.
So you did exactly the right thing by just telling him what to do.
I didn't know.
No.
It's called, what's it called? I didn't know.
MDMA?
No. It's a newish, and apparently it's very, very cheap. That's why lots of young people take it now.
It's not the one that they take in the little bottles, silver bottles. That
it's like a powder. What's it called? If you know what it's called, please call. And you win an hour with Jo on her podcast.
I won't know.
It's called. What is it
I'm not
called?
up on
It's a one word that. It's like a
crystal meth.
No.
I only know that from Breaking Bad.
You wouldn't know that. It's not. It's not
a well-known drug.
Now it is apparently because I've seen lots of documentaries about this because it's very big in the UK at the moment. This was 2.5 years ago.
I just remember thinking how incredible. I literally don't think I could have stayed as calm as you did. I think that's an incredible response. But I think you've worked with
youth offenders.
You've worked with a charity that helps people that have had abusive relationships and things, and so I think possibly that training.
I think it was mainly fear. The only thing I was thinking about was don't turn your back, because if I turn my back, I lose control of what's going on.
Yeah.
And also, I mean, I'm not a very small guy, but this guy was like 6'3", 6'4".
Yeah.
So, if he did get into a physical fight,
you were not going to win.
I don't think I was going to win.
No.
I think there's no way I was going to win. So, I just thought, okay, I need to face him and I need to basically make sure that I don't stop staring at him.
Yeah. And the other thing we should mention, because like you say, obviously the size difference, but you've got other sort of issues as well to contend with, which is you had a major surgery only a few years before that.
A couple of years before.
So that must have been.
No, I wouldn't have been. Yeah,
back of your mind as well.
I don't think at that point. I mean, at that point it was just like it was also
just dealing with the situation.
Yeah. But I mean, it would be very dangerous for me to do any kind of physical kind of. Yeah.
Scary, very scary. And I don't know whether you feel comfortable talking about the operation that you had to have, or
we can talk about that. I mean, this is something that my inner circle knows, but it's not something that I've made public on my social media or interviews. But I guess here, because obviously of our relationship, we can talk about that. I had a brain tumor. I had a brain tumor in 2014, and I was operated. It was,
Can we just say, because my first thing is when you think of, when you hear of anyone, and cancer affects something like 1 in 3 people, isn't it? You're very lucky if it hasn't affected you personally or people that you know. And the first thing I always think of when I hear those stories is, oh my God, what were the clues? And I can remember on the run up to that, that you had headaches, hadn't you?
Yeah.
And
so it was a very weird type of headache. It wasn't a normal headache that you get if you're tired. It was more of a pain in the head rather than a headache. So it would come and go, and it would be very sharp. It would be like I have a hammer suddenly hitting my head, and you get the effect of that for a while, and then it goes, and then it happens again. I had that for probably a year beforehand, and
so they were the really early signs.
Exactly, and as time went by, they became more and more frequent. I went to the doctor, to the GP. Not once, not twice, 4 times, and they sent me for massages and physiotherapy, thinking that I've pulled something on my neck at the gym. At that point, actually, I was doing a play that I was topless, so I was really trying to be in a very good physical shape. So I was going to the gym quite a lot. So I had no reason to doubt them. And my mum, bless my mum, she insisted that I persuade the doctor to go for an MRI because at some point I lost my vision completely.
That's what I was going to say. So I think that was when I can remember Manolis saying to me that it happened twice, I think, didn't it?
Twice, yeah.
And we were like, well, that's not normal. You don't just, lose
from
your
both
vision
eyes.
So
the first time, for about 20 minutes, half an hour.
Can you imagine if you'd been driving?
Exactly. So I was very lucky because
road?
I was at home the first time, and I was actually directing the second time, but I was on a break from directing, but sitting down. So I was very lucky that this happened at situations that because it was like sudden, right?
Anytime,
from nothing.
yeah.
It wasn't like gradual, but suddenly I thought I'm losing my sight. Suddenly from being
just
able to sit
out.
yeah. So again, I actually went to Moorfields Eye Hospital and they checked my eyes. They said everything's fine, but then it's a migraine or something like that, which I never had migraines. And at that point, my mother said, "Okay, you should definitely persuade the GP to have an MRI." I did, and it wasn't easy. They said, "I don't know," and I had an MRI. And I had an MRI 2 days before I was off on a big holiday, 2-week holiday with a lot of friends. And I remember going to the place where I had the MRI, and there was an Irish chap doing it, and he was, joking and very playful and really happy, blah, blah, because I'd never had an MRI before in my life. And it is actually a terrifying experience. If someone, I'm not claustrophobic, but if someone is claustrophobic...
I've had one since you had that, and it's awful.
It's and it lasts for a long time. So he said to me, it's going to last 20 minutes, it's going to be very loud, close your eyes if you feel uncomfortable, take deep breaths. Anyway, so I went in there, and you lose a sense of time, right? You don't have a watch at that point, you don't have a clue how long you're in there, but it did feel more than 20 minutes. And actually, I was taken out and he said, "Okay, we need to do something and then you'll go back in." I said, "Why?" He said, no, don't worry. So they put me back in there for the second time for another, I don't even know how long. So it definitely wasn't a 20-minute in and out thing. I was
and
in
so
there.
you were starting to get suspicious.
Exactly. So when I came out, I realised I'd been in there for over an hour. And I said, "What's going on?" And the guy, who was very friendly and
can't
laughing,
tell you, can they?
was completely serious. He said, "You're not going anywhere in the next few days, are you?" I looked at him and thinking, "Why?" He said, "I can't tell you, but you're not." I said, "Actually, I'm going on holiday in 2 days' time." He said, "Okay, someone's going to call you." Obviously, I left there thinking, what is going on? And I knew it's something that is not, a muscle or something like that. Indeed, the same afternoon, I got a phone call from my GP saying, "Can you come in? And can you bring a family member or a friend?" That's not what you want to hear from the GP. Even saying that now, it's
it's awful.
It was a very scary thing.
It's the same as when you get that phone call where they go, "Oh, Joe, don't worry, but everything's fine." But and then you hear what awful things happened.
But I didn't hear everything was fine either. Because don't
they
worry.
They can't tell you that, can they? So that was a doctor's call.
So I went in there, and the doctor was very straightforward. I remember her name, Dr. Mills. She said, "Look, you have a brain tumor. We don't know what type it is. We don't know if it's only the one or it has spread in your body. But what we do know is that it's next to your spine, and it's grown a lot, to the point that it is stopping the blood flow that's why you actually had the incidents where you lost your sight, because blood wasn't going to your optical nerves, and the pain is because the blood is trying to go past the tumor, squeeze it, and a lot of it gathers, and suddenly it goes puff, 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 and obviously that. So that was the pain that was coming.
The sudden hammer, yeah.
You need to be operated within the next 24 to 48 hours, because even if the tumor is not going to kill you, it's next to your spine, and you could be paralyzed any minute now. The whole thing, one moment in time can change your whole life. That was that, really.
Yeah.
I thought I was living a surreal nightmare. What do you do with that information? How do you process it?
And you have to sign, don't you? Because I know when my nephew, when he was 7, had a really bad accident, and had my brother and my sister-in-law at the time had to sign to say they could remove his arm if they had to.
So this was later on. That was before the day of the operation. So I think the most shocking moment was that when I found out about it. And then how do I deal with that? Basically, I said, go and pack your stuff. Someone's going to call you where you need to go. I think, there was no time to research hospitals.
No.
Under normal circumstances, if you have cancer, you start talking to people, finding out where's the best place.
Yeah.
Because, I was like completely, which in a way was a good thing. I was very lucky because I ended up at a very good hospital, and a fantastic neurosurgeon operated on me. But at that point, I didn't have any choice or anything.
No.
I had to come out, and I had to call a few people, including my mum. I had lost my dad a couple of years before that. And that was a very, very tough phone call to make. She got a plane. She lives in Athens, so she got a plane, the first flight into London. And the next day at the hospital, I was, and that was potentially scarier than the actual operation. They told me I need to have a full MRI to see if it's the only tumor or if it's spread. I knew that having a brain tumor is bad, but I knew that if the tumor has spread, it was possibly something I would. My chances were almost none. So I got into that MRI machine, and I was in there for 1 hour 40 minutes because it was a full body scan. When I came out, my thoughts. It was one of the most traumatic experiences I've ever been through. Probably the most traumatic. When I came out, they were asking, "Do you need anything?" I said, "What I need is." Because I knew by that point that the radiologist cannot tell me. I need a doctor to come and look at it and tell me, because So I only had the one, which was obviously good news, and they would operate the next day, which they did, and that's when
it was the size of a grape, wasn't it?
Yes,
of
a walnut.
Oh, a walnut.
A walnut.
Similar sizes, grapes, walnuts.
I think walnut is a bit bigger. I think walnut's
walnut
a bit
bigger. You wanted a bigger one. Okay, so it was a walnut.
It was a walnut. Yeah.
Big old tumour.
So the operation lasted for 7 hours. Before the operation, I had to do exactly what you described. I had to sign.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just dying. The chances of a brain surgery.
Paralysis.
Seriously, it was like 3 pages.
Blindness,
paralysis, deafness, anything you can think of.
Yeah.
Losing my short-term memory, losing my long-term memory, losing my ability to talk, losing my ability to. Everything.
Yeah.
Basically, because as it's brain.
They don't know.
It's very good. The operation lasted for 7 hours, and when I came out, I remember. I don't know if any of you guys have been through general anesthetic. I'm sure some of you have. It's a very weird thing, and actually films depict it quite accurately. The whole 10, 9, 7, 8, and then you lose track, and then the next thing you remember is tin, like the heart monitor. It's not like sleeping, because when you sleep, no matter how many hours you sleep, you are aware that you have slept. When you wake up, you are aware that time has passed. With general anesthetic, first of all, you don't dream, but with general anesthetic, it's just like from one moment to the next, completely. So I remember waking up, and the nurse at the intensive care unit asking me to tell her my name and why I'm there. Obviously, was checking my cognitive abilities. I had tons of tests like that throughout. Who is the Prime Minister of the UK? What year we're in? Where am I? Things like that all the time, every day.
Things most of us struggle with now since COVID, and we don't know what day is it. Who cares?
True. Anyways, So the operation was successful. The tumor was removed. I was very lucky. I was operated by a top surgeon called Dr. Neil Kitson, and he's probably my personal hero. Because as I said, I didn't choose him. I didn't do any research, but I was very lucky that it was him that operated. The next few months were very tough because although when I got in the hospital, I had some headaches, but other than that, I felt great and I was very fit and stuff. Where the tumor was a center of my balance, so it had affected my balance, which meant that the moment I tried to do any kind of movement, I got vertigo. Yeah. Which is awful. I don't know again if anyone has experienced vertigo, but it's something that I wouldn't wish in my worst enemy. Also, I had a couple of other minor issues. I couldn't eat because my reflex that controls basically the part of swallowing, was affected, and it was very dangerous for me to eat anything. So it was all via intravenous, yeah. And I couldn't walk because of the vertigo, because the moment I moved up, I felt that everything was going. And my speech was affected as well, because, and that had terrified me, because obviously lots of my work depends on my ability to talk. And I like talking as well.
As we've said about voiceover and being bilingual, I mean, honestly, you can't think of obviously something like that's not good news for anybody, but for someone that's their career depends on all of those things. Yeah. That's a silly remark because most people's livelihoods depend on all of those things, but it really was a huge blow. Yeah, it was. Huge blow.
And funnily enough, after a few, I think I've told you that when I switched on my phone after like 4 or 5 days, I had a message from my agent, "Where are you?" They have asked you to audition for the new James Bond film, and it's a good part. So,
I do remember.
So I was actually crying and laughing at the same time when I got that. Yeah.
The one time you get offered the Bond, the James Bond.
I wasn't offered the Bond.
You weren't offered Bond, okay. I know.
But I still have a chance. Daniel Craig's going to retire.
Exactly, and they haven't had a Greek Bond, have they? So I mean, maybe it's time. Maybe now is the time for a Greek Bond. Yeah. I think so.
I'll throw my name there.
But what also I want to say as well is that all this was going on, which is huge in anyone's life, and like I've said, I think it's 1 in 3 people that have to deal with this. You still did, and I was talking to Phil about this earlier, because both Manolis and I met our partners about 5 years ago or so, 5 or 6 years ago. So when all this was going on, we were still gloriously single, really, weren't we, both of us? But Manolis still had the foresight to not only not tell everybody what had happened, but to create a Facebook group, which I just think is genius. And the reason I'm saying it is that I think going forward, and for anyone else that's suffering anything that you don't want to keep, it's like when somebody passes away, everyone that around you cares, don't they? So they want to know that you're okay or how that person is. But it's very draining on you to keep.
I mean, everyone deals. I don't want to accuse people that deal with it in different ways. But what I knew from the first moment is that I'm not going to post on Facebook, what is going on, because I've got quite a few Facebook friends, and my Facebook is not like Instagram. It's closed, so I have to approve, and I do know everyone on my Facebook, but not everyone is a close friend, and I really didn't want hundreds of messages and this to become a massive thing. At the same time, I knew that my close circle needs to find out.
But I thought it was genius. I thought it was absolutely genius. So you just used to put updates
I wasn't managing it to start with.
No, somebody else did because you.
So one of my closest friends basically asked me who should be on there, so I gave him a list of the names. Yeah. That was the day before the operation. Yeah. Created a Facebook group.
But the foresight to do that, I mean, I just think it truly is genius, because it did mean that we didn't have to try and bother Notta, your amazing mum, or anyone close to you to find out how you were doing, because obviously
everyone... It was posting a daily update every night, I think, how the day went.
Yeah, about how you were, what was going on, and then the minute, because I was working very near to where you lived at the time, so the minute you could have anyone round...
Visitors, well, you were in Edinburgh when it happened.
That's right, because I had it as part... that was in part of my show
you found out... you found out in Edinburgh, I know that for sure.
I definitely found out in Edinburgh, because part of the show that I did the following year mentioned it, because it was like, oh shit, what do you do? And it's that whole thing where actually you actually can't coming back, there was nothing that you could do, but you also feel awful for being
so
carrying on doing it, and especially when it's comedy that you're doing, and you know someone that you love is back home going through the worst moment of their life. So it's a real difficult thing for everybody to deal with, and that's why I was saying the Facebook thing was just bloody genius, because it just meant that we could all know how you were doing without you having to do it, and without everyone around you the very close people around you getting bothered all the time. So I thought that was really a little stroke of genius to sort that out. And the fact that you could have a massive brain tumour and about to be going in for a potentially fatal operation, and could still go, do you know what, I think I need my administrators. I need to get my best friend to administrate my health log on Facebook. So
I recently went back on there and I was reading it, the anniversary of so you've
been clear, you've been given the all clear for
last year, 5 years.
5 years.
5 years. And a couple of weeks ago was my 6-year anniversary of the tumour, of my operation. And I did go back on this Facebook group because they're still there.
Yeah.
And I went in, I was reading it, and I got quite emotional. And it's quite interesting because obviously, I had read it before, but, it is like a journal, a diary of
moment of time.
I mean, a friend of mine actually did propose to video to basically record my whole journey. And to start with, I said okay, but that was, but I couldn't do it. I just thought, and partly because of vanity, I suppose, because obviously within days, when you go through something like that and you're in hospital and you can't do anything. When I say I can't do anything, I literally couldn't do anything.
Your mum had to do everything.
Well, at the hospital, the nurses had to do absolutely everything. And then my mum, you just. I remember the first time that I went in the shower on a wheelchair, and I had the nurse, basically a woman that I never met before, taking off all my clothes and basically showering me, and I couldn't move my hands. I could understand everything that was going around. I remember I couldn't tell if it was tears or water running over my face. It was just, it was a humbling experience, and sometimes we forget the most important things. And again, even now with the COVID situation, I think, okay, what you're doing the podcast is fantastic. What I'm doing with voiceovers, it's great, it's fun. However, these people, the nurses, the doctors,
NHS,
not all jobs are the same. These people save lives. These people deal with situations that are unbelievable. The things they see, they have to remain calm. They have to support you. The amount of strength that takes, and how you look at them. They are your gods. I mean, I'm completely not religious. I'm an atheist, but I was looking at them, with all my hope, before the operation. I was looking at the doctor who was there, and my life depended on him. I knew that depending, what he will do with his hand is going to determine whether I live or die.
It's incredibly sobering, isn't it? It is. It's a huge thing, and I think it's those people, I wonder how they feel, because it's their job, isn't it? And I know that and I suppose they don't get time to get emotionally attached to each.
Well, you can't,
because it's impossible.
And also you can't. I mean, you wouldn't be able to do your job properly. No. I mean, it's a different. I mean, we're kind of the opposite. We need to get attached to the characters we play and stuff like that in order to do our job properly. But it is the opposite. I'm sure they do, but in different ways. I mean, the coping mechanisms are very different. But
the thing that I think is incredible about your story of that particular time in your life is that I think, like you said, you could look at it that everything was about to go really well. You got offered a James Bond movie. Obviously, it wasn't James Bond, but you didn't know that before. But you had that. You found out you had this tumour.
It was a very good point in my life. As I said, I was doing the play. I was really loving. I was about to go on a fantastic holiday. I felt really strong.
You felt okay, and then this out of the blue hits you, and then you have a long road to recovery. But then this is what I absolutely love. Not long after that, you met Rick, who is your husband, completely out of the blue too.
I mean, yes. So obviously, the months after the operation, the only thing on my mind was for me to basically be able to recover, and for the follow-ups to be clear, because after the operation, there was a lot of blood in the area, so they knew they had taken most of the tumour out, but they couldn't be certain it was all. So I might have needed chemo or radiotherapy. But the only way to know that was to wait for a few months for the blood to clear, so they can actually have a scan to tell me whether or not there's residuals. So obviously, I was waiting for that, and I was really nervous. And I was doing physio to try to start walking again. I was very worried about my voice.
Which was very different straight afterwards.
Different.
Yeah.
Very different. I was obviously, physically I didn't look good at all. I mean, my face was bloody. I was very thin. I was, so when you're like that, the last thing you think of is your personal life. And shortly after, so 7 months after the operation, I did meet my partner, and it was random. I mean, some friends took me to Madrid for a weekend after I got the first clear scan to celebrate. And obviously it wasn't like a normal holiday in the sense that, yes, I was much better. Of course, I could walk around by myself. I was eating properly. My voice had almost, but I would get tired very, very quickly. I had to sit down a lot. So, it was early stages. So we went to a bar, and my current partner approached me and started talking to me in Spanish. And I say, first of all, I just, as I said, my head was elsewhere completely. I said, I don't speak Spanish. And he goes, okay, I speak English. And he started speaking to me in English. Obviously, nothing happened that night, but a lot of, his friends joined my friends, and we started chatting, and we spent a couple of hours laughing and stuff like that. And then it was time for us to go. We were flying early the next morning. And he asked for my number. I did think, oh God, why? I mean, this is ridiculous. What's the point of this? I've just met this guy for an hour and a half now, and now, what is the point? I live in London. He lives in Madrid. Did I mention this was Madrid? I probably didn't.
You did. You said it was Madrid. Yeah.
So when I came back, when I landed at Heathrow, I remember clearly that I already had a message from him saying, hi, it's me from last night. How are you? Did you arrive safely?
Now you say
what's
that,
the weather like?
Because obviously I know.
What's the weather like? And I was like, oh God, please. Okay, I didn't even reply immediately. I mean, I replied after I got home. So anyways, to start with, it was text messages, and I remember telling some friends about this guy. He's a very good guy. He just wants to practice his English, And at some point, he asked me to do a Skype session. And I did log on and chatted to him, and that was it. We ended up talking for 3 hours. I told him my story. I told him exactly where I was at, and I thought
which is tough, isn't it? Because you would think someone would run a mile
from
that story. Is that half why you told him?
I told him because I expected him to do that. But my mum was telling me I was telling her that I don't think that I think I'll be alone now, because no one will come near me if they know that I've been through this, because it's a very scary.
It's
scary
a big thing to take on. It is, if you to potentially fall in love with someone that's already potentially.
That's the thing, because if you're
exactly.
But no, he didn't run away, and Skype sessions became a daily thing. And a month later, he came back. Then I went there. A year later, he moved to London. 3 years later, we got married, and now he's downstairs.
Best wedding in the world, guys.
Oh, stop it. It was good, wasn't it?
It was amazing. It was amazing.
And now, he's downstairs preparing dinner for us when we finish the podcast.
He is, yes, bless him. Not lobster, though. Not lobster.
He's not allowed to do lobster.
But that's such an amazing outcome to quite a dark story. That's why I think it's important to share it, because somebody could have just had those things happen to them now, and I get that that's how you felt, and obviously I saw you all through that anyway. But you do get to a point where you're like, well, what's the point in anything? I'm going to be on my own. No one's going to want me now. I'm a broken person. I'm a shadow of my former self. And still, actually, if we're honest, you have said to me in the not too distant past that you're still kind of disappointed that you feel Rick hasn't seen the best of you.
Yes, as in stamina.
Yes.
I mean, because obviously, I did. It's very hard to compare really now, because obviously years go by, and obviously the older we get as well, our stamina changes.
Yeah.
But definitely my stamina has never been what it was. Even the way I exercise is different now. I used to do a lot of cardio. Now it's weights really, with stuff that are steady, that don't exhaust me. I don't run out of breath, stuff like that. Yeah. So yes, I did feel that, and but again, I can't pinpoint exactly how it would be now if this hadn't happened, physically. But I suppose it's what I have learned is that you can never tell what's going to happen with life, and it's got lots of twists and turns, and some of them are bad turns, some of them are amazing turns,
And what's interesting is quite often what you perceive to be the worst, bad, awful times, where you feel there is no light, and that you can't imagine there ever will be light again.
Yeah.
That you turn that corner,
exactly,
and Rick's there, or you turn that.
Yeah, and shortly after I got the Durrells, which was fantastic.
And that was amazingly brave, because Manolis got cast in the Durrells not long after that had all happened. And it had a fight scene in it, and I can remember you being really scared about taking it. I can remember you saying to me, "I've got the script. It's got this fight scene, and I really shouldn't be doing it. I'm really worried, but I don't want to lose the job, because that's the other thing as an actor that you have.
You say yes to everything.
You have to say yes to everything, and even if your arm's hanging off and you have to be a jouster or something, it's that whole. If you've seen, is it The Life of Brian where they go to scratch? Yeah. It's you do try and carry on, but. Seriously, I mean that's not pretending you can horse ride when you can't horse ride or whatever. That's a seriously scary decision.
Yeah, and I had to disclose it. I wasn't planning on disclosing it, but for insurance reasons, I had complete questionnaire because before I flew to Corfu for filming, that I had to actually put it in there. Who knew? I don't have a clue.
No.
Who actually knew from production. But I did do the fight scene, and it was very safe, and I did feel okay, so that was absolutely fine. So,
yeah. And wasn't there a story, I seem to remember at the time, where when Keely Hawes found out, she was very lovely about it?
Yes, but you know how she found out? From the makeup artist. That's the thing. So right.
Never tell a makeup artist anything.
Well, it's very hard not to tell them, because I do have a big... No, because I've got a big scar on my neck that goes up to my...
Of course.
To my head.
Do you know what? You can't see it at all now.
Well, because you're facing me forward. You're looking at my face, not at the back of my... He did
turn his head, but you can't see it at all. So, have you got some of the pictures of the when it was fresh?
Yes, I do. You've got to post them online.
Post one.
No, that's serious. I will show you.
Is it like Frankenstein?
It is really awful. It's really, really awful, especially they're quite bloody and stuff.
But it doesn't make you look any less handsome now, Manolis, because it's on the back and you cannot see
they can't. No, it is true. Now it's very hard to tell. I mean, unless you look specifically at my neck. But obviously, when they're doing your hair and makeup, they always do.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about that. So I was being disparaging about makeup artists. It's not at all. It's not gossip. It's because there was a scar.
So every time now I'm on the makeup chair, they go like that.
Oh,
what
they
happened
don't
to you?
now. Don't exaggerate. They don't go.
What happened to you?
There's nothing there. I'm going to take a picture.
Right.
There is nothing there.
Okay,
now.
There is, guys.
Stop making a fuss.
So they go, what happened to you? Because there's a scar. It's like a 10 centimeter scar on my head. So so back then I actually told them. So obviously that was a really interesting story, and it was shared, and Keely found out, and she was very sweet about it. She talked to me about this, and so that was the story. With Greed, the makeup artist did ask me, and I said, I fell when I was a child. I mean, I did
How
tell...
did it fall on your neck?
Well, I don't know. I mean, they didn't ask more questions. I did tell some of the actors, because obviously we became friends, and then after spending so much time in Mykonos talking about personal stuff, this came up. But I learned my lesson, and again, when I've done like day things like corporate stuff or video clips or stuff like that, or short films, I don't disclose that information just because it starts a conversation that
you don't want to have to keep regurgitating.
Exactly. And especially the people that I'm not going to see again, like you listeners.
They'll all be following you on Instagram now.
Manolis Emmanouel Facebook.
Yeah, you'll have at least one more.
That's going to be your mum. Probably.
She probably
because you need to call her.
You.
Because you need to call her. Yeah,
I should call her. So I think that it's been an amazing chat, Manolis. It's all things I kind of obviously we already know, but it's actually quite nice to just have a general conflab about life.
Well, thank you very
stuff.
much for having me here, and I think that's a fantastic idea, and I love the fact that you always come with new ideas and new stuff, and I've got a good feeling about this. Yeah,
well, I mean, the thing is, my reason for doing it, as I said to you earlier, is that I think celebrity is, I mean, it's great and it is what it is, but I think that ordinary people have really interesting and inspiring stories that if you don't share them, nobody will ever know the fight that you've had in life, and people think things come to certain people really easily, and the point of these is to prove that actually the ordinary people that do amazing stuff, it was still hard, but it didn't stop them, and that means that everyone can do it. You know, if we can do what we do, everyone can do what they want to do, and it's only you that's in your own way. It's very easy to go, oh, I can't do that because, but there's as many reasons why you can do stuff as you can't, and it's just which way you want to turn at that signpost, basically. And actually, there's a really lovely signpost. I love. You haven't been to Folkestone yet, have you?
No.
And there's a really lovely signpost on the Lees, which is beautiful in Folkestone, and the signpost is one going right, one going left, and it says this way, that way. And it's as simple as that. Yeah, and that's life, isn't it? Which way do you go? So I think it's a really nice way to sort of round off this lovely interview with Manolis. And if you want to check out his films, you can check out Greed on Netflix and is it Prime?
Greed is not on Netflix. Greed is on Amazon Prime, Apple TV, Chili, Rakuten TV, Google Play, everything but Netflix.
Everything but the one I said, because I'm a pro.
The Durrells is on Netflix.
There you go, the Durrells. So if you want to go, if you've only got Netflix, check out the Durrells.
Season 1.
Season 1, and you're in 2 episodes of that, aren't you? That was the risk that you took, because there'll be a fight scene that you'll see in that's quite a chancy scene to do when you're just recovering from a brain tumour.
That's true.
So there you go. So thanks very much for joining me. And if you want to check out some more Real Folk, do visit my website joburke.com, and you can find some exclusive photos, footage, bits of films, bloopers. There's lots of bloopers that you'll find on there. If you support the page, you'll get all those exclusives and access to those things as well. So do pop over there. And if you want to just have a look on Facebook at who I've had on, who I'm having on, just follow Real Folk on Facebook. So thanks very much for joining us, and good night.
Thanks for listening to Real Folk with me, Jo Burke.